For your weekly assignment this week, we'll be looking at one particular digital technology artifact or object, and this can be of your choosing. I have a list of options. You can pick one of those and delve deeper into it. And what we'll be doing is thinking about the different ways that this particular technology, right, has arranged, restructured, and interfaced with our daily lives. And we'll be looking at that through a set of different relationships. So when we think about, and I'll provide the example of a smartphone, so nobody can use a smartphone as their object of interest or their technology of interest. But for each of these different technologies, you'll make a short video that goes through these different aspects. So how has the smartphone in this case restructured or changed our habits, our perceptions, our concepts of self, our ideas of space and time, our social relations, and our political boundaries. And so all the different options that you have on that, you kind of just think about, do a little research about, do some critical thinking about, how Bluetooth could be another technology, for example. How has that changed our habits? How has that changed our perceptions, et cetera, et cetera? So, the different technologies that are on the list, some will be more heavily oriented towards habits and perceptions, for instance. Other ones like drones or things like that might have more interesting notions in terms of political boundaries or ideas of space time or whatever. So, as you go through your technology, pick one that you're interested in, doing a little bit of research about. Then you'll think about, how that technology relates to, or how it's restructured the world based on these different categories. You'll make a short video, 8 slides, basically an introduction, 1 slide on each of these different concepts, and then a conclusion. About a 5-minute video will be your assignment. So I'll go through a example here using the smartphone. So, how has a smartphone restructured the world? So think about our habits, right? Regular use of our device, of our smartphone, becomes an integral and often unconscious part of our daily routine. So we now think of communication as constant and accessible from anywhere. Our information gathering is instant and external. We navigate in real time, and it's self-located. We have a blue dot on our phone that tells us where we are in the world, and the navigation of the map happens in relation to that blue dot on our phone. Our relationship to media has definitely changed because it can be, music, video, all these things can be accessed in real time and also produced from a single device. Our social interactions and expectations shift rapidly, and our consumer behaviors have changed as well, all based on this device, right? And, here's an example of that, right? Our habits or our way of being at a concert or something like that has changed based on our smartphone. Our interactions with that music space has changed based on this technological device that we hold with us. Perceptions. So this refers to how individuals or communities interpret, understand, or make sense of their experiences while engaging with technological devices. And we can talk about this from a sensory, a cognitive, an emotional, or a social perspective. So whichever one kind of fits best within the technology you're looking at. Think about how the technology you're exploring, how that's changed our perception from one or many of these categories. So you can think about with a smartphone, how has it changed our perception? It's reduced our attention span. We have this constant influx of notifications. We've created new habits of multitasking. We're a little bit more scattered on single tasks because there's so many different tasks, so many different things coming at us all at once. It's altered our perception of waiting. Right now, oftentimes the idle time that we have waiting at the doctor's office or in between appointments or classes or whatever, there's much less idle time of sitting, waiting, experiencing things, people watching, etc. Now you're kind of engaging with your media device, your phone device in those idle times. And there's definitely a culture of instant gratification or a perception of instant gratification that has arisen from constantly having this connected device with us. Um, and that by by the downstream or the unintended consequence of that instant gratification is that now we have a decreased patience for things that are operating suboptimally, right? So if we're out in the world and things are operating in a way that's not very efficient or not providing that instant gratification that is afforded to us through our phone, oftentimes that can be a source of frustration or depression or uh, anger or all these other things because we have one thing that's operating optimally and personally towards us that we interface with all the time, and then we have this whole other complex world around us that is not operating optimally, right? And that creates this disconnect. Um, and we can see this as something, as simple as ordering a cup of coffee becomes this like complex social gamified um, task that has various features and various reward systems and um, digital interfaces that are taking one of the simplest things in existence, which is making a cup of coffee, and complicating it in all these different ways. So that's changed our perception of what it means to even order, a simple item. The concept of self has been restructured through our smartphones, right? Our ability to express our identity, to create a digital identity, um, ways that we self-express, our concept of privacy, how we're validated socially. All those things have kind of altered based on our phone interactions. Um, we've used this process to curate digital personas or avatars for us that operate in a digital space. We have these differing validation and feedback loops within digital personas, right? So that could be uh, rating systems for tasks that you're doing, like a Uber driver. That could be online digital dating profiles and views. There's all sorts of likes that you have on your stories. There's all sorts of different uh, validation and feedback loops that provide a sense of self or sense of worth, right, through these external metrics. Um, and it's eroded our privacy norms, right? The distinction between public and private life is increasingly blurred, and there's a regular sharing of kind of the mundane, personal thoughts of individuals, which has led to a more open and invasive expectation of privacy more broadly. So, yeah, our concept of self has changed both from what we keep to ourselves versus what we share with other people, how we create digital avatars to uh, kind of offshoot parts of our identity into different digital spaces, right? And then how those are validated through various kind of internal metrics within the systems that we're putting those like digital avatars out into. So our concept of self is kind of like shifted and blurred in ways that are kind of hard to explain based on having a smartphone with us all the time. Here's an example of such thing, right? Behind the scenes of a so-called influencer doing whatever they do. What else has been restructured with the development of the smartphone? Our ideas of space-time are uh, profoundly altered by this technology, reshaping how we perceive, interact with, and understand our environment, and the temporal or the space-time aspects of our lives. So there's a decreased importance on local places and more of a interconnectedness within a global network, whether that is via social media, via just access to information in various ways, through connections that you've made to other people in other places based on the capabilities of your smartphone. Our pace of life has changed from that. Our idea of like what it means to be doing something in the environment, in the world, right? The device that we carry fosters a different type of instantaneousness that we expect. So things like information, communication, and services, all services are expected to be available immediately. and that's really accelerated our pace of life and altered our perception of time, or altered our perception of waiting. And one of the consequences of this is that it's really blurred the boundary between work and non-work life, right? There's a perception of productivity and expectation of task completion that are embedded within people knowing that you're on your phone and that you will see their messages or see their emails or things like that at all times a day. So, oftentimes work emails, things like that will be sent throughout the entire time of the day because, excuse me, because there's less distinction of when work starts versus ends, right? And this is just like, even if you just pick up your phone after it's been off for an hour, um, and you'll have all these different notifications from all these different places, right? There could be emails that you're seeing, there could be text, there could be social media posts, there could be whatever, right? All this stuff, coupons. We'll talk about this later in the semester. Location-based services that pop up, notifications, all these different things, right? They're saying like, here's all these things that you missed while you were watching a movie or while you're taking a shower or whatever, while you're in class. Um, and now there's an expectation that you'll have all this information and respond to it in a timely manner that kind of breaks down that distinction of space-time expectations. How has this redefined our social relationships? So this could refer to how does the technology you're looking at influence or shape or redefine the way that individuals and groups interact and communicate and form relationships with each other. So, a text phone offers new forms of communication, texting, social media messaging, video calls. Those have all transformed interpersonal communications. The way that we form and maintain relationships changes with technologies, right? I have friends that I never talk to, but I text all the time that I haven't talked to in like years, right? I'm able to maintain certain friendships in particular ways through text, but there's other things that are lost along the way that you don't aren't able to capture based on like that modality of communication, if that makes sense. And then social dynamics and behaviors change as well. The way that we behave and interact in social context is often influenced by these technological mediators. Um, and so there's a disconnect between our online interactions and our face-to-face interactions, and oftentimes that we have levels of aggression or levels of formality or different tones or different things we reveal about ourselves in online spaces that we wouldn't in person. And sometimes, there's loud examples of those two things blurring where people behave in real life like they behave online, and it's kind of, you're taken aback when you see that. You're like, oh, um, because that like set of social behavioral norms is shifting as well based on these online relationships that we have, or these online personas that we have via our smartphone. Um, so here's an example of a text message, typical text message form of social interaction. Um, and then what has been shifted in our political boundaries with technological influences, right? How has that challenged notions of political borders, of governance, of resistance, right? So activists and social movements can mobilize quickly and globally to gain international support or attention quickly, and that really can transcend national boundaries, right? So whereas in the past, social movements that took place in Libya were kind of contained to Libya, for example, right? Now, social movements that are taking place in Libya can have this far wider kind of global mobilization, global appeal because there's this transnational aspect to information sharing via your social media and via our phones. We can document and expose in real time things that are happening, right? And this can put pressure on governments, can put pressure on institutions, can share quickly and broadly the conditions that are happening on the ground, whether that's violence, whether that's natural disasters, uh, political unrest, whatever, right? There's like all different ways that there's a real-time documentation of what's happening. And that can challenge dominant narratives, right? Citizens can share and record events. They can counteract official narratives, expose things like corruption, police brutality, etc., through the documentation, the real-time documentation that our smartphone allows us, right? And so, like, the interesting aspect is that our smartphone allows us to instantly document and share, right? And so there's not like in the past you'd have to document on a camera, like a video camera, video recorder, or something like that, and then take that tape to a place that could be shared, for instance, to a network that could be shared. Now we can create our own networks of share. We can pipe in, we can use even hashtags of the event to share to people beyond our network, right? So our network is not just contained to the people that we know, but like information notes, information tags, and have networks as well. So that completely changes how we're able to communicate, record, document, and share information. Right? We've seen videos of social movements, protests, things like that that help kind of articulate that. Yeah, and so that is the assignment. Let me see if I can pull it up here. It's a mini presentation. Your objective is to create an 8-slide video that basically just walks through your technology. There's a list of technologies to pick from. Make one slide that's the intro, one slide for each of these different topics. You can use any platform you want. I use Adobe Express when I make little videos. It's free, super easy, drag and drop. You can add sound on the back of it. You can add transitions. You can do PowerPoint if you want and record yourself going through it. Any platform you are comfortable using. I have a little tutorial about how you can use Adobe Express here. When you are done, the easiest thing to do is to upload it to a YouTube channel. Hopefully you have a YouTube channel. That's the best way to share it. So yeah, if you don't have a YouTube channel, you can create one. Just link to your Humbled account. It'll take 2 seconds to create one, and then just drop it in there and make sure that it is public for viewing. Let me know if you have any questions about that. There is the rubric. There's examples from previous semesters up here, etc., etc. So let me know if you have any questions, and I look forward to seeing your exploration into these different technologies.